Hi, and welcome back. In Level E this week, we are going to be covering lessons 25 through 28, and you will need your worksheets, numbers 14 through 17, the activities for learning abacus, your math card games book, the corners and multiplication card decks, the 4-in-1 ruler, the meter stick, some colored tiles, and then 4 slips of scratch paper that we're going to write on. So today we're working with thousandths in lesson 25. So after doing your warm-ups on worksheet 14, have your child take the abacus and turn it so that the AL is at the bottom right corner. Let me go ahead and show you what this is going to look like.
Okay, so this is your abacus the way you would normally have it, with the logo, the AL for activities for learning, up in the right-hand corner. But what the instructions say to do is to rotate that 90 degrees and then to look for a little white dot, which is actually here between the 5th and 6th wires. So I'm going to try to show that to you on the screen here, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Do you see that little white dot? It's just a little bump left over from the process of making the abacus, but it's really handy because we're going to use it as a decimal place. So the first wire, first of all, if your abacus doesn't really have a very good dot, you can always put a sticker there or a drop of white paint, something to just indicate that there is a decimal point there. Okay, so the first wire to the left of the dot, I'm going to put a dot up here just so that you can see it. I can see the dot the way I'm looking at it, but I think it's harder for you to see it. So there's where the dot equivalent is. So the first wire to the left of the dot is the ones. Okay, so here would be the ones, the next one the tens, the next one the hundreds. Okay, so just one wire per place value. But then to the right, it's going to be the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay, so here, for example, I'm going to put in, let's see, 300, 210, 1. So 321 there. Okay. So even though I'm showing you how this works, please ask your child which wire is going to be the tenths and which one will be the hundredths, okay? We want them to be thinking about it logically. So now I'll enter 6 tenths and then 5 hundredths and 4 thousandths, okay? So we have 654 thousandths. 654 thousandths, okay? If I hadn't entered these, it would just be 321 and 6 tenths. Now it's 321 and 65 hundredths, or 321 and 654 thousandths. Okay, does that make sense?
Okay, so once your student understands where tenths, hundredths, and thousandths are, they can go ahead and complete the first section of their worksheet up to the gray line. And then when finished, ask them the questions that you have in your lesson book. That'll lead them to deeper thinking. So next, we'll be working on multiplying by tens on this side of the abacus. This exercise is to give your child a visual on what happens when multiplying by 10, whether it's with whole numbers or with decimals. So once this is understood, have your child complete the worksheet and notice that the problems get more difficult as you go down. So the first row should be completed rather than the first column first. Okay, so do it by rows. Then ask the in conclusion questions and play the game top and bottom corners, which is S11, and we do have a blog on that for the basic instructions. But in this variation, the scores will be in hundredths. So if I scored 15, now my score is 15 hundredths, okay? In lesson 26, we are adding with decimals. So once again, the warm-ups are on the worksheet, and after you check the answers, move on to the first problem in the worksheet. Your child will use the 4-in-1 ruler to answer these questions. So to measure the 2 line segments and then add them together. and then check the addition by measuring the entire line segment. So this is the 4-in-1 ruler. So it's the white one. On one side you have centimeters divided in tenths, of course, and in half. And then on the other side you have the inches divided in 16ths, which is normal. That's what you would normally find. And then here it's divided in tenths. So this is unusual for a ruler, at least the ones that I can find at the store. So make sure you have this ruler in order to complete this worksheet. All right. So once the first problem is complete, ask the question in the book before moving on to the next problem. Do the same after problems 2 and again after 3 and 4. Now your child can complete the rest of the worksheet independently. Make sure to check the answers and then ask the in conclusion question. You can play top and bottom corners again today with scoring in the hundredths once again. All right, in lesson 27, we will be subtracting with decimals. The warm-ups are on worksheet 16, and once you've checked them, have your child explore the meter stick and ask the questions provided. If you don't have the folding meter stick, any meter stick will do. So you can have a yardstick that has centimeters on one side, that's fine. And it's not that hard to get those. The 4-in-1 ruler is harder. So next we're reviewing millimeters and the abbreviation for that, which is mm. In problem number 1, notice that the picture is of a meter and the segments are in centimeters. The question asks your child to find the location of a tenth of a meter, for example. This is 0.1 meters or 10 centimeters. So they're making all these connections between tenths of a meter, 10 centimeters, 0.1 meters. So this can be challenging for your kids, but it's really good for them. And I think that they'll enjoy it once they catch on. So after each of the first four problems, check for understanding by asking your child to explain the solution. Problems 5A through 5E can be done independently. Notice the explanation on the right-hand side in that right column. I still get confused over the words minuend and subtrahend because these words were never used with me when I was learning math in school, and so I've really had a hard time making them stick. And maybe you're having that same problem. However, using the correct vocabulary is really important. So one way that I try to remember these words is to say that subtrahend is subtracted from the minuend. So I make a connection between the spelling of subtrahend and subtracted. Subtrahends are subtracted from the minuend. Okay. So end with the in conclusion question and then play subtraction corners with tenths, which is F22.4 in the Math Card Games book. All right, for lesson 28, this is our last lesson for this week, we're working on averaging. Have your child complete the warm-ups, and then you will need slips of paper, those 4 slips of paper that I talked about in the beginning. So for example, you'll want to write on one piece A, and then put 6 blue. And on another piece, write B and put 5 red, and C, 8 green, and D, 9 yellow. This just indicates how many tiles and what color they need to be using for the next activity. So have your child place the number of tiles above each letter slip of paper, and then give your child time to figure out how to distribute the tiles so that they're even. If your child is having trouble writing the expression for finding the average, so I don't think that they'll have problems actually averaging it. They'll just move the tiles around until there's an equal number in each pile. But if they're having trouble writing the expression for finding the averages, go ahead and write the numbers as your child tells you what they're doing. So sometimes separating those two tasks of thinking really hard about something and writing helps the child move along in the problem. And so once you've done that, once you've been the scribe for your child for that first problem, I would then encourage your child to write it out the next time. So I wouldn't keep being the scribe, but it might be helpful to do that the first time. All right. Do the 3 examples with your child and then have your child solve the first problem on the worksheet. Notice the 3 ways your child could have written the calculations. So the book shows you 3 possible ways. But then in the explanations column, it shows you how the expression should not have been written. And I think all of us are probably guilty of the way that's written. And it's one thing for adults to do it when we know that really that's not how you write an equation, but you're just trying to solve the problem. But for kids who are just learning how to write equations and expressions, I would not let them take that shortcut. All right, so tell your child to complete the worksheet, and once you have checked the answers and had your child correct any mistakes, ask the in conclusion questions, and then play multiples solitaire, which is P19 in the Math Card Games book. This is a really fun game, and actually my son and I play it quite frequently. He enjoys it. He does not particularly enjoy solitaire games, or at least he doesn't think he does. So I sit with him and we kind of tackle the problem together. So if your child gets stuck on the instructions for the game, or if you do, just start playing the game and work together to beat the cards. And pretty soon the directions will all make sense. And your child can play the next round by himself, which my kid does. I sort of back off eventually once he gets the hang of it, and I quit pointing out solutions and whatnot. And you can do the same thing. Eventually the kids take off with it and they really enjoy the game on their own. All right, so that's it for this weekend, and I hope you have a good one. Next time we'll see you for lessons 29 through 32. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.